Game changer.
All right. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to something a little different, a little strange for the Buckeye Mike channel, and I guess the Shitty Sports channel, as we are going to be your host for your sports hockey people to go to. Being Buckeye Mike and living in Columbus, Ohio, I am obviously your resident Columbus Blue Jackets fan. And for this show, I am joined by my host, Alec, who happens to be a hated Pittsburgh Penguins fan. All fun.
well, you know how it is in Metro Division rivalries.
Oh, yeah. Rivalries in general, it's crazy.
Yeah, especially when you look at the Battle of Pennsylvania, the classic Penguins-Capitals rivalry. Those are some classics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. First topic for tonight. Let's talk about the NHL 24 gameplay trailer. So what are your thoughts on the trailer and the way that the gameplay looks?
All right, so first up, I'll give EA and EA Sports credit where credit is due because it's 5 minutes of gameplay and there doesn't seem to be any break whatsoever in between because what it's seeing is nonstop gameplay to explain their new attributes. While there are going to be fans that have their concerns about it, this might be looking to be the best NHL game by EA since 14. You have to go back to last decade to show how long ago that is. And looking at NHL 24's trailer, they have introduced a new engine called the Exhaust Engine, powered by Frostbite Free. And they're allowing for crossplay so that Xbox One users can play against PlayStation 4 users. They can play with PlayStation 4 users. And Xbox Series X and S users can play with PlayStation 5 users. So that was definitely needed to start being software NHL 24. It debuted in 23, but that doesn't work for the most part in every platform. They've addressed this since. And not only are they doing this for competitive play, they're doing this for those who are regulars on Hockey Ultimate Team or HUT and World of Chell. And wait times, they're reduced because of that, so that has me excited. There's some other features that I would love to discuss too in this, like sustained pressure system. So offensive stats go up because of the adrenaline effect. Defensive stats go down because of the pin effect whenever there's sustained offensive pressure by one team. There are also new goalie animations because of this. And so there are 50 to 75 plus new animations on it. And body checking is bringing back to levels that hasn't been seen since NHL 14, which has me so excited. Hitting is based on what people do with the controls. Basically, the right joystick, if one were to use the skill stick controls on that. you can break the glass now in NHL 24. That's very rare to see in NHL games. Wouldn't you think?
I think there are some new aspects to the games that will definitely intrigue the hockey fans and maybe pull in some of your, I like to watch it at the arena, but I don't really like to do much else with it. It definitely has its positives and negatives. So I hope the game does very well. Sadly, being someone that doesn't own a game system, I will not be playing it, but I hope it does.
You get one sometime.
Yes, very much so.
Oh, yeah. And they're looking to make this more for the real feel, as in trying to make things more realistic in EA NHL to make it as close to the real life hockey experience as possible, such as tic-tac-toe passing with the new one-touch passing and division passing system. So basically holding the right trigger on the controls, either Xbox or PlayStation controls, holding it down, and then just so hold it so that the face map buttons like A, B, X, Y on the Xbox, and then the shapes on the PlayStation, and then it shows up for the other 4 skaters on the ice so that you can pass it to. This is very useful in power play situations. Plus, user controls and goaltending, they were due for change, and goalies are finally getting some love because in games past, it felt like there was a steep learning curve on trying to learn how to play goalie in EA NHL. Now, it seems that the goaltenders, whenever you release the left joystick, the game automatically returns your goaltender to the center of the crease, which I feel was needed, and it helps the casual gamers learn how to play goalie easier. There are other features on this, but I'm not going to explain this in full detail. I'm very excited to see what NHL 24 has to offer.
Yes, I would say that you and many, many others are definitely looking forward to the game coming out.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So our next topic, I think, could possibly be the most interesting topic. Jonathan Toews, sorry if I pronounce it wrong, Toews, is not playing this season, but he's not retiring.
It's interesting because, well, he said he'll be taking some time away. What the surprise to me is that he didn't retire outright because of the long COVID symptoms that was plaguing him throughout the last 2 seasons after he was placed on the COVID list 2 weeks into the 2022 year. But because of the long COVID, he was limited to 53 games last season. I'm not going to lie. Everything about what happened 13 years ago inside the Chicago Blackhawks aside, and I know hockey fans are not going to like that about the organization because it left a black eye not only with the team but the NHL itself. I'm not going down into further detail on it. Jonathan Toews, the long COVID and the chronic immunity response syndrome that he was dealing with, it sparked questions about his playing future. He was rumored to be in the trade deadline last year, but he was never dealt. So he'll be taking a break. And let's not lie. He won 3 Stanley Cups. And he was one of the better centermen in his time from in the early 2010s. And one of the more accomplished players with the Blackhawks. There's nothing left to prove. But either way, I'm not going to stop him from making a decision in his future. It's up to him on whether he wants to continue on or hang up the laces, because it was either retirement or him taking a pay cut to sign with the Oilers this offseason based on reports from what I'm seeing, including from Mark Spector of Sportsnet. Though the Oilers, they have their own one last RFA to sign, that being Evan Bouchard, who they have the cap space to sign, about $3.5 million in cap. But Toews taking a break, it was expected, but the shocker was that he didn't announce retirement because he averaged under 18 minutes a game for the first time in his career in the last 2 years, where he had 27 goals, 41 assists, 68 points, and a minus 45 rating in 124 games played throughout the last 2 seasons combined. But now this will be his second full season that he's going to miss heading into 2024-2025. So if he were to come back, it's going to be a long road ahead if he decides to make a comeback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am a little shocked myself. You know, he's accomplished so much. He's done so much for Chicago alone. let alone the league itself. And I feel like he's made strides in getting hockey onto the map as far as the progress of getting it over the local markets type of watch. Because in a way, like, okay, you think soccer, you think Beckham, you think hockey, you think one of the people you think, in my opinion, would be Jonathan Toews.
Yep.
Obviously, there are a few others, but he is definitely up there, and he's definitely a key point and purpose in getting the NHL and hockey itself to the places that it obviously has the potential to go.
Yep, Chicago being one of them. And he and Patrick Kane, that was a 1-2 punch with the Blackhawks.
It killed me every time they played us, but it was honestly fun to watch the both of them play.
Oh, yeah. And then when you look into the next chapter, it has me thinking, I can't wait for Bedard versus Fantilli.
Oh, yeah. All right, so our next topic is the best remaining free agents on the market. So who, in your opinion, would have to be the best remaining free agents in the league?
There was the report that Jonathan Toews and his agency, they have taken his name off the free agent list entirely because of him taking a break, and that was to be expected. The first names that come to mind are these two guys: his teammate Patrick Kane, and former New Jersey Devil and one-time Vegas Golden Knight, and alongside with that was a Stanley Cup finalist with the Montreal Canadiens, even though he didn't play in 2021 for the playoffs, Tomas Tatar. Well, Tatar may not have the pedigree that Kane has, and Kane may not be the player that he once was, but these two guys, I immediately think of when these of the top remaining free agents available. Kane last played on a short stint with the New York Rangers in trying to go for expectations of an all-in push. Unfortunately, that didn't work out as they fell in 7 games in the first round to their cross Hudson River rival. Unfulfilled expectations. Unfortunately, the Rangers might not have the cap to keep Kane because they're trying to get all the remaining cap in trying to sign Alexis Lafreniere after they had most of their free agent spots filled out. Blake Wheeler, Nick Bonino, Tyler Pitlick, and they gave Keandre Miller a new contract, so that leaves Lafreniere as the priority. I don't know, because Lafreniere is a restricted free agent, he is subject to an offer sheet. Hearing that one team might be offer sheeting him, I just don't know who it is, but I'll have to check back on that. Kane is certainly up there, and I'm surprised, and some may be surprised that he is still on the free agent market, but he is coming off hip surgery. His hip wasn't feeling at its best throughout last year, and maybe that could have been why he's still on the free agent board for this long. He's 34, so probably maybe north of 3 years if a contract were to be given out at a modest term of around $5 million a year. But there is the league-wide cap crunch that every team is facing, so he's going to have to take a pay cut if he were to join a team. And the same thing might be said about Casey if he were to join along anytime between later this season, if he were to backtrack on his original decision of not playing this season, or next season if he were to stand on that. So Kane's there. He still has the sick mitts that he's known to, that Chicago fans have known and loved when he was there. Tatar, on the other hand, he can contribute to a team, albeit in a middle six role. That's where he is at right now. He's been linked to the Pittsburgh Penguins, So I'm not sure if the Penguins are going to try and make an attempt at signing him. But after the Erik Karlsson trade, I felt as if they're going to have to allocate their cap and activating Jake Gensel off the LTIR when he comes right back. So that was the main motivation on making this trade. That Erik Karlsson trade surprised many. Oh, did it surprise you? I'm asking.
It surprised me a little bit. It was definitely unexpected.
Yeah, it was. Considering that he just won the Norris Trophy. First defenseman to record 100 points in a season since Brian Leach in 31 years ago. Then you look at Tatar. We apologize for the long pause on that, but Tatar, he played a full 82 games last season, mostly playing with Nico Hischier and Dawson Mercer on that line. Sometimes he had Fabian Zetterlund as his other line mate on the right wing side, but Tatar, he was Hischier's constant line mate. Now he's still on the free agent board. This deep into the offseason, it's been well over a month and a half since the free agency period began. And to see that he's still on the board, oh, that is surprising to say the least, considering that he's coming off a 48-point season, which is actually not bad for a middle six forward. If I'm looking right back at his career trajectory, he has been consistent, especially in his time in Montreal when he was playing with Philip Deneau and Brendan Gallagher as his most consistent line mates. He did have 30 points in the shortened COVID season in 2021. That he played 50 games. Just appeared in 5 playoff games that year, so he didn't appear much, but he can still contribute on a middle six role. It wasn't too long ago since he had 61 points in 68 games for Montreal in 2020. Was part of the Max Pacioretty trade in which it sent Pacioretty to Vegas. Nick Suzuki came the other way, and Suzuki is now named the captain of the Canadiens. But Tatar, he can help out a team's middle six. So if you're one of those teams looking to sign a middle six forward to contribute, he's still there for the taking.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I would say probably Phil Kessel, the right winger that recently played for Vegas.
Yep.
Definitely, I mean, obviously, drafted 5th overall in 2006 and played 82 games last year, 14 goals, 22 assists, and 36 points.
And he can still score in patches. Yep, 14 goals is evidenced by that. And he's the current Ironman record holder among active players right now after Keith Yandle's retirement last year. So him being scratched for most of the playoffs, it does not affect his Ironman streak, but he's still there on the free agent board.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be 36 during next season. Can't believe that he's going to be 36 already. We're all getting old, you guys.
And, I mean, he is definitely a decent pickup, I would think. Like you said, he still can be a scorer, and he can definitely make things happen still, evident with the 14 goals and 22 assists last year. And the cap hit's only $1.5 million. So my biggest thing is, he played with Vegas last year. work something out with Vegas to re-sign this year on a 1-year deal, or do we see him sign somewhere else?
We have yet to see that. If he were to come back with Vegas and run it back with them, I'm guessing a pay cut would do. Though Vegas, they have around 850,000 in cap space, so that's just enough if he were to take a big pay cut, probably at the league minimum, because they're allocating $5 million of their cap space in putting Robin Lehner on the LTIR. We don't know his status, but I don't really expect him to come back to the NHL, considering the double hip surgery and the financial troubles that he is dealing with. But Kessel could be a good fit on their current lineup, albeit in some bunches, because right now they have their lineup set, and Paul Cotter, Pavel Dorofeyev, that's their two young role players at their forward core. They're set to have a breakout after they trade away Riley Smith to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah. And then I guess two other ones that I just offhand looking. One's Josh Bailey, and the other one is Dennis Malgin. Malgin?
Yeah. Malgin, yeah.
Malgin. And for example, Malgin, the cap hits $750,000.
So that's a league minimum.
Yeah.
Well,
so
previously, though they increased that to $775,000 for league minimum. Though, from what I heard, I think Malgin is playing in Europe now. Because he last played with the Avalanche, though. He is a free agent. His rights are not picked up by anyone in the NHL. I think he's on a 5-year deal overseas in Europe. So we might not be seeing him for quite a while, but he did have some nice production with the Colorado Avalanche this past season after they got him for Dryden Hunt, which is a bargain trade, a 1-for-1 swap. And Malgin picked up the pace in sheltered minutes. Good bottom six forward.
And another one that just kind of pops up with the site that I'm reading. It's just a little weird because it's like name, there's a team logo next to it.
You said Josh Bailey, if I remember?
Yeah, Josh Bailey was one. Yeah. And I could see, I don't know, how am I reading this? If I'm reading this right, the cap hit is $5 million.
5.5. I think $5 million previously, though he got recently bought out. Or yeah, $5 million exactly. His previous contract was $5 million cap hits through 6 years, starting with 2019. He just had his final year bought out by the Chicago Blackhawks after they took on his contract and a second-round pick for basically nothing, because that's the terming of what future considerations means in the NHL. Keep in mind, this is not a Lou Lamoriello contract. This was a Garth Snow contract. So to have this contract being bought out means they finally got the final domino of the Garth Snow era fallen. But let's be honest, he was actually a bright spot and want to spend a dark time for the Islanders back in the Garth Snow era. He was part of that team that won the first playoff series for the Islanders since '93 with David Volek's one-timer from Ray Ferraro. And now he's gone. He was a second liner with Anthony Beauvillier and Brock Nelson on his heyday, but this past season he was taken off their plans come playoff time, having seen his role being taken over by a cheaper acquisition in Hudson Fasching. and Fashing constantly, most consistently being on John Gabriel Pageau's line.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Nelson has found 2 new line mates with Pierre Engvall and Kyle Palmieri. Though Engvall, I may think that he's going to be either on the second or third line to begin the season now. Though Palmieri can also play the left side. Oliver Wahlstrom set to come back from injury, and he only plays on the right side of the wing. Fashing also only plays on the right side. So possibly, and seeing that Bailey is falling out of their plans, this was a necessary move for the Islanders to make in trying to shed off the final year of his contract, and he's still up there. Probably, if any team were to pick him up, it's probably going to be at a $1 million around that, or possibly league minimum, if anything. He doesn't have the vast pedigree that Tatar or Kane have, or Toews, but in shelter minutes, he can still provide some value. Not a lot, but some value.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, it looks like we've kind of hit most of the remaining free agents. I'm sure we can always talk about more at a later time. Let's see.
If we're looking at most improved team and most disappointing team heading into this coming season, so I'm guessing.
Yes. Before that, let's play the ad from the sponsor.
In a world full of fakes, how to avoid buying fake items that look just like the real thing? Are you getting faked over? Experts say it's all in the details.
All right. Thank you for eBay for sponsoring us. And yeah, so as you stated, most improved and disappointing teams heading into this year. Not to sound like a homer, but I do think that the Jackets have made certain moves that could help and definitely do seem improved. I think there's a lot of, positive outlook with hiring Mike Babcock as the head coach. I believe he doesn't have any head coaching experience. If he does, it's not very much, if I remember.
He did coach the Detroit Red Wings for nearly a decade, last I remember, and he was previously the head coach at the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they have that experience that they have there. Similarly to John Tortorella, a hard coach that can push players and possibly motivate them, though I'm hoping that he gets his past cleaned up, considering what happened between him and Johan Franzen and previously, and Chris Chelios did not like him previously, but I'm hoping that he has his things cleaned up, because when you look at the Blue Jackets last season, you would think that they were one of the worst teams in the NHL. How I see it, they were one of the most unluckiest teams in the NHL.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at it, their place in the standings doesn't tell the full story. Mm-hmm. They were rattled with injuries left and right. Over 500 man games lost due to injury. You'd think that a team citing Johnny Gaudreau in the offseason would take a big step forward. Unfortunately, in come the injuries to fill out the hospital ward. Oh, that is tough and unlucky. And while the Blue Jackets, they mostly stood pat in free agency, they did the bulk of their work on the trade market already. Ivan Provorov, Damon Severson, they're now donning the Union blue and red. And that's going to make big strides for the defensive core. especially since Zach Werenski, their number one defenseman, he's coming back from that shoulder injury that knocked him out.
Yeah, I was honestly there when it happened, and I was like, hope y'all come for the drinks because it ain't going to be good this year. But yeah, I mean, I remember, like you said, last offseason we signed Johnny Hockey, and it just felt like the stock for the Jackets were going up, and everything was heading in the right direction. And I even said, after they got Chinikov and Line, the first go around, I even said this team is building towards winning a cup within the next 5 years. And I still believe that. You just have to stay healthy, and you can't lose all the guys that you lost like you did last year.
For sure. And especially a big bounce back from Elvis Merzlikins, considering the year that he had last year. Rookie form Elvis Merzlikins, that was peak Elvis Merzlikins. Back when he was at his best, and what we thought we would be seeing a high-end goaltending tandem between him and Jonas Korpisalo, who is now of Ottawa, by the way. And now to Columbus, they're looking to assemble for several playoff pushes right to the second round and beyond in the coming years, should this keep up. And Adam Fantilli being brought in. He and Kent Johnson have previously went to the University of Michigan. So I don't know how Blue Jackets fans feel about this because it's Buckeye country over there. So maybe it's so-and-so, but if they are as advertised for the Blue Jackets, I feel Columbus will grow to love them.
Yeah, I mean, does it stink they donned the maize and blue? A little bit. It stings, but it is what it is. As long as they can produce, that's all that matters at the end of the day. For
sure. And not to mention some other young talent around the roster. You mentioned Chinikov, Kirill Marchenko too, and Alex Texier is coming back.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think, the roster looks good. I think it's going to be an adjustment period. I would hope that the Jackets are definitely better this year than they were last year. But how much better would be the question at the end of the day because of all the moves you've made, bringing in a new head coach, most likely meaning a new system, but who knows?
And especially, let's consider the Eastern Conference is hyper competitive. If you look around the East, you see 13 teams are going to be competing for playoff spots. That's not hyperbole.
Yes, it's like the Eastern Conference in the NHL is equivalent to what the West used to be like in the NBA.
And I feel it still currently is right now.
Oh, yeah.
So it has the legitimate question sparking in my mind if the NHL should implement a play-in tournament much like the NBA did already. Which I feel I wouldn't blame them if they did, because it can accommodate for the issues in hyper-competitive conferences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that is definitely, I mean, from basketball end, the more basketball, the better, I feel like. Some people don't like to play in. Some people love to play in. Some people just don't care. And I think that's the consensus of what you're going to get with anything.
Yeah. So with most improved team out the way with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I agree with you on that one. Most disappointing team, I'm so-and-so on Nashville, but I don't think of them being the most disappointing team. So the moves they made are boom or bust. Like Ryan O'Reilly, you're giving him a 4-year term. It's to see if he can produce top line minutes. And they're banking on the belief. Nashville's banking on the belief that last year with St. Louis, was a one-off. They're looking to see how he was before during that cup run with St. Louis and the years before last season. They're hoping that he returns to form to his Conn Smythe Trophy winning year, but not necessarily disappointing what Nashville's bringing. Luke Schenn, he's more of a late bloomer, and I mean extreme late bloomer considering that he didn't rise to prominence until 2 seasons ago when he was Quinn Hughes' defensive partner. Now he'll be Roman Yossi's defensive partner on the top line, because before it seemed as if Luke Schenn was going to be off the map and right off the face of the NHL entirely after he was drafted in the top 5 selections, or top 10 if I can look back. That was way back in 2008. Now he's a top-line defensive defenseman for teams who need that, and that was the case with Vancouver, Toronto, and now Nashville. But I don't think of the Predators being the most disappointing team per se. I feel I'm going to have to give that to the Los Angeles Kings, because yeah, I know they made the move to acquire Pierre-Luc Dubois. The thing is, they had the right idea in trading away some of their prospects to make a big name move. The problem is they traded for the wrong guy. This was meant for Connor Hellebuck, not Dubois. They have their center core pretty much almost set in stone with Anze Kopitar, Philip Deneau, maybe Quentin Byfield, but Byfield's mostly playing on the wing with Kopitar and Blake Lizotte. This was meant for Hellebuck. So if you're trying to trade away all of Gabe Velarde, Alex Iafallo, and Rasmus Kupari for a big name, this was better meant for Hellebuck, because they need to address the goaltending. It was near the bottom of the league last year before Jonas Korpisalo came in. And now Korpisalo's gone. And instead of him and a tandem of him and Phoenix Copley, they now have a three-way tandem of Copley, old Cam Talbot, and inconsistent David Riddick. Talbot, he had a down year in Ottawa, though it wasn't that long ago since he was putting up legit numbers with Minnesota. But I can't help to fathom about his year in Ottawa as if I don't know what to attribute it to, rotten luck, or if it's a sign of age. And Riddick, I'm just not so sure. I had the feeling that he was going to be the goalie of the future with the Calgary Flames back then, but it never really happened. Now he went to Nashville, where he face planted and gave up the backup goaltender role to Connor Ingram in the playoffs when Yusei Saros got knocked out for the season. And then Riddick goes to Winnipeg, where he does okay in shelter minutes in relief of Hellebuck. But they got a goalie from Winnipeg. It's not supposed to be Riddick. That was just supposed to be Hellebuck. So, that in mind, I just don't know if I can trust the Kings enough to go on a deep run, which I feel I don't.
Yeah, I think for the most part you're right on with Nashville, and especially with the Kings. I mean, I don't see how you could just fumble away a trade like that and just get the wrong guy. I mean, you know who you're trading for or who you want. So make the moves you need to make and go get the guy that you want. Or if you ask me, it just makes it seem like you don't care about the organization.
It seems very weird about acquiring Dubois. I'm not going to lie, he's a nice top 6 center who can produce on offense and can set up at the front of the net to get better chances going. The main problem is, if you're looking for goaltending, you can't just magically turn back the clock and hope that prime Jonathan Quick comes back, because Quick is 37 now. He's a shell, and I mean a shell of what he once was. Just note this. He had a .876 save percentage last year with the Kings. And he was the fourth string goalie with the Golden Knights when he came in there via Columbus in what was the Korpisalo and Vladislav Gavrikov trade.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings are a very, very puzzling team heading into next season.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be entertaining to watch the Kings, especially if they're getting blown out 3, 4, 5 to nothing almost constantly. I mean, I'm sure, the team has talent, but the team's not littered with talent and making strides to progress and get better like the Seattle Kraken, I feel like.
And that's why they got Kevin Fiala in the last offseason to try and improve the offense on the team. And for the most part, they did improve that offense, though it came at the expense of their defense, which they emphasized on that with Gavrikov. Though Sean Durzi, one of their power play quarterbacks that's been moved away, and I can see this possibly to make room for Brant Clark, their top defensive prospect, who, according to several pundits, believe he has the potential of reaching Erik Karlsson status right down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But the Kings, I just don't know if they can. I just don't feel they're going to make a deep run. I'm not saying they won't make the playoffs, but this team is puzzling.
Yeah, the team it doesn't, the way that it's structured and built with who is there doesn't make sense.
Just doesn't.
Well, this is always tough, and we went with back-to-back. Next one is talking about Rodion Amirov, who did recently pass because of a brain tumor, if I read that right. So just to get my thoughts out of the way, it's always bad and sucks when someone passes, and especially the way that he passed. My heart and thoughts and prayers go out to the family, and it looks like the league, I'm sorry, I didn't really read up much on this like I should have, admittedly, but it seems like the league is trying to take action to kind of health-wise help to make it less physical in a sense, so that things like this don't happen. But I don't know, maybe you can save my train of thought and kind of clear up where I was going.
It's always tough to see a young guy pass away like this, because he was one of their top prospects for a while, dating back to when he was taken 15th overall in 2020. He was the pick that they used to select in the Kasperi Kapanen trade. And him getting a more extensive role over in the KHL after he lit up the MHL, that's basically the junior affiliate in the Russian hockey league, the KHL. And it is tough whenever someone goes out like this. Cancer is not a joke, and cancer sucks. So I can't help to think about this, because he did recover enough to travel one time to get to last year's Hockey Fights Cancer Night in November for Toronto Maple Leafs. And he wanted to try and get back to playing hockey in time. He worked out with both the Salavat organization with the KHL and the Maple Leafs, but he had to stop that for additional treatments. But for those who not know him closest, he was one who had a constant smile on his face, never complained, and always was up to the challenge. And medical staff was doing everything they possibly could to help him out, to help him beat cancer, whatever was necessary for him and his family and those closest to him. And I send my condolences out to the Amirov family, his friends, his teammates, and everyone close to him in this tough time.
And our last topic for tonight is also another passing, sadly. We are sad to say that Rick Jeanneret, Canadian-born television and radio personality, best known as a play-by-play announcer for the NHL's one and only Buffalo Sabres. Unfortunately, I never got the chance to listen to Rick call any games, but for those that have, I'm absolutely positive that it just hurts and sucks because, you know, when you listen to a broadcast, you're expecting one guy or two guys, and that's who it's going to be. And it always is when it's local radio broadcast. So I'm sure that's an adjustment for people. People may not listen, possibly out of respect for him, because they like to listen to Rick. But again, my condolences to the family and friends. You know, both passings suck, and it was just, I don't know. I don't know. So, what are your thoughts?
I'll just say, when it comes to the Sabres, there are two constants. The city of Buffalo, or should I say three constants? The city of Buffalo, the passionate fan base, and Rick Jeanneret. Jeanneret, he's announced the games from their second season of existence up until the 2022 season. That's 51 years of legendary runs and amazing calls left and right. What Sabres fans were treated to throughout this run were a lot of exciting calls, and one of the more outstanding and one of the best regional play-by-play announcers in NHL history, having either covered it on radio or television. He won't publicly say himself that he's the voice of the Sabres. He's always said that to his predecessor, Ted Darling, on his TV. But he has delivered some remarkable calls. Like, these guys are good, scary good, or top shelf where Mama hides the cookies, or whenever Pat LaFontaine scores at the la 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 Fontaine. There will never be anyone like him in Buffalo. Perhaps his most famous was the Mayday call when the Sabres, they shockingly upset the Boston Bruins in the first round in the 1993 playoffs. That was perhaps his most famous. Oh, and Buffalo loves him. Forever will he be remembered in Buffalo. It bums me out that the Sabres never won a Stanley Cup with him, but he did call two finals with the Sabres, 1975, 1999. And growing up in nearby St. Catharines, that's right nearby Niagara Falls. So he was just right by the corner. And if he's not calling the games, he's watching either from his television or right from the stands. And the Sabres, they're going to be playing this next season with heavy hearts, knowing that it will be the first time since their inaugural year that he will not be calling or watching any games of them. he did live a long life and is happy to have called this long run 51 years with them. And I'm happy that he got to call 2 Stanley Cup finals with the Sabres. Looking back at the highlights of the Sabres, he definitely made hockey a lot more exciting in the city of Buffalo. My condolences go out to his family, his wife Sandra, his sons Mark and Chris, stepdaughter Shelly, and all the beloved grandchildren that he has.
Absolutely. All right. So this was a test run. I hope y'all enjoyed this. The show will stay. The live stream was a test run. I do apologize to everyone on my part. I am the less knowledgeable fan, and he is the know everything guy. So we will get everything set up, and hope to do this every week. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And subscribe to Buckeye Mike and Shitty Sports Network. We're pushing to 900 right now. The goal is 1,000 subs before the NFL kickoff. So hit that sub button. Leave your comments down below, and we will see you next week for episode 2. Thanks, everyone, and have a good night.